Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Teaching, Reading, Dreaming, and today I am bringing something brand new that I am so excited about. This is a new way that I am going to review books for you called a dream review. I will break down today's book into 5 categories: dialogue, readability, entertainment, arc, and my opinion. A dream review, and I hope you enjoy it. Today I'm going to be reviewing Wench by Maxine Kaplan. This is the first ever dream review on my channel, and my goal is to keep all dream reviews under 5 minutes. 5 categories in under 5 minutes, and I really don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm going to do my very best to keep this review under 5 minutes. Here I go. I will be reviewing Wench. It is a story about a young girl who is a tavern maid, and I think, just to begin, that it is such a great idea to have the protagonist be such an underrepresented character in literature. We see wenches pop up in all of the swashbuckling action movies and adventure novels, and it's time that we heard from one as our protagonist. And before I jump into this review, I want to say a huge thank you to NetGalley and Amulet Books for providing me with an advanced copy in exchange for my honest review. And here it goes. As far as dialogue in the book goes, I thought all of the dialogue was pretty believable. I especially enjoyed the dialogue between Tanya, the protagonist, and the Queen in part 2 of the book. There won't be any spoilers, but we do hear from a queen in part 2 of the book. I thought their dialogue was very interesting. They're both powerful women, and so that was a really great exchange to see and very believable. The story is told using third-person limited point of view. We really only get the point of view of our protagonist and really no one else, even though the author does a great job in pulling in those extra characters. I thought the dialogue in the tavern scenes were probably some of the best dialogue in the novel. They were very entertaining, the dialogue was authentic, and it just really put you into the world that Tanya lives in that tavern, and it starts the book off in a great direction. However, as the novel progresses, the dialogue between the auxiliary characters, especially the male characters, it just becomes a little bit hard to keep track of, at least in my opinion. As far as readability goes, I again thought the choice to make Tanya a tavern wench the main character of this story just immediately caused the story to have momentum. It was unexpected, which, I mean, you knew what the story was called, so in that case it wasn't unexpected, but as far as that idea, I thought it was a great idea to give the story momentum. However, readability was where I thought the story had the most shortcomings. The novel, at least right now in its current state, is marketed to children 12 years old and up. However, the explicit language that crops up throughout the novel reads like it should be marketed to high school students instead. I know all school systems are different, but as a classroom teacher, my school system personally would not allow that book to be marketed to our students at a book fair or anything like that. However, I think a young reader's edition of Wench would be a fantastic addition to any middle grades classroom library. Now moving on to the entertainment value. Like I said before, the raucous atmosphere of the tavern Tanya lives in provides the great, fantastic setting that just gives this novel momentum at the very beginning. However, part 1 of the 2 parts of this book, it's really stop and go. I found myself putting the book down for days at a time and then coming back to it because I felt like the action wasn't really going anywhere. While reading scenes in the tavern, it felt lively, like the swashbuckling port city scenes in movies like Pirates of the Caribbean. But when Tanya makes it on her journey, it loses a lot of that momentum. That loss of momentum happens as Tanya begins to pursue ownership of her tavern. She has to go away on an adventure to gain rightful ownership of her tavern. And in that way, the movie reminded me a lot of Shrek after he is booted out of his swamp. And I'm not really sure if that is the parallel that the author was going for, but it was very obvious to me. The action doesn't quite seem consistent until part 2 of the novel, where all the storylines end up coming together and moving forward. As I mentioned in entertainment value, the arc seemed a little bit stop and go at times. The book has 2 parts, and part 1 was a little bit repetitive to me, but part 2 really kept me entertained. Any scene with the Queen and Tanya really read like a dream. Their dialogue, as I said in dialogue, was really fantastic. And even though the Queen has, maybe kind of a spoiler, so jump forward about 10 seconds if you don't want to hear this. The Queen has ice powers, and even though that kind of walked the line of being dangerously close to Disney's famous Ice Queen, the author did enough with her character that she avoided a direct comparison to Queen Elsa. Speaking of magic, a lot of the storyline revolves around a magic quill and Tanya's ability to use it. And a lot of those scenes ended up being reminiscent, at least to me, of Dora the Explorer and using the map, and also of Disney's Peter Pan. And while this might sound critical, the hero's journey style plot elements that were redesigned for this YA book really did work in its favor. I was entertained. I thought the major conflict of the novel was handled really well. However, I do not think the characters were given enough room in the resolution to really breathe. The falling action was very, very quick, and the resolution seemed to wrap everything up a little too fast for my taste. So on to my opinion. I thought Wench was a really enjoyable, stress-free read. I would definitely recommend it to high school students or older middle school students who are more mature. However, I could not personally recommend it in my own classroom unless a young readers version was made available, which I would love to see. Amulet Books, if you're listening, a young readers version would be fantastic. I think it would definitely be entertaining for middle grades and high school students. I love that it showcases a female hero without falling into typical male tropes. However, while I feel like Wench did a great job of avoiding gender tropes and stereotypes, I did feel like much of the character action and just characterization, the development in general, was a little bit predictable. So, was Wench a dream read? I personally gave this book 3 stars because I felt like it was a solid YA read that high school and middle school students would definitely enjoy. However, the predictability and just the stop and go plot progression, especially in part 1, prevented it from getting any higher than a 3-star rating. But I would definitely read more from this author, and I think this book would be fantastic on the screen in a movie or a TV show. It just has all of the wonderful elements that would make for some great action sequences. Thank you so much for tuning into this dream review. It was my first one, and I'm so excited to review more books for you in the future. I review all kinds of books, so if you like to read, or if you are a student or a teacher, or just someone who likes stories, then subscribe down below and stay tuned. But before you go, I want you to take a few seconds to think about your last dream read, a book that was just so good, and I want you to leave it down below in the comments because I might want to read it too. So be sure to subscribe and like this video if you did enjoy it, and I will see you soon. Thanks again for watching.